Have you noticed prices going up again? On everything from electronics to groceries? It's not just inflation anymore. This time, there's a global trade war heating up, and it's hitting your wallet in ways most people don't even realize. Today, we're diving into what tariffs are, why countries use them, and how they're quietly making everything more expensive, from your next iPhone to the cereal in your kitchen. A tariff is basically a tax on imported goods. So when a US company buys steel from another country, the government might slap a fee on it. Why? To protect local industries, raise revenue, or sometimes punish other countries. Sounds strategic, right? But here's the catch. Businesses usually pass those extra costs right back to the customer, you. Right now, the US has placed new tariffs on a range of goods from China, Europe, and even Mexico. In response, those countries are hitting back with tariffs of their own. It's like a global pricing ping-pong match, and we're caught in the middle. Let's break this down with some real-life examples, because this is where tariffs start to hit home. First up, cars. If you're buying a new vehicle and it has foreign-made parts, which most do, you could be paying anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 more just because of tariffs. That's not an upgrade. That's just the cost of international politics. Now let's talk about tech. Phones, laptops, tablets, even game consoles all rely on global supply chains. If one key component from overseas is taxed, the entire price of the product can jump. And guess who ends up footing the bill? Yep, you. And yes, even your food isn't safe. Think about that imported olive oil, chocolate, or fresh fruit. If tariffs are applied, prices can spike quickly. You might not notice a huge difference on one item, but across your whole grocery list, it adds up fast. So if tariffs can be so costly for consumers, why do governments even use them? There are a few main reasons. 1. To protect local industries. By making foreign goods more expensive, they hope people will buy domestic alternatives. 2. To punish other countries for trade practices, political issues, or human rights concerns. And 3. Let's be honest. Sometimes it's just about looking tough on the global stage. It's political. Now, some industries might benefit in the short term. Local factories might stay open. A few jobs might be saved. But in the big picture, the overall economy tends to suffer. And that cost, it usually lands on the shoulders of everyday people. Now that we've seen how trade wars can drive up prices for consumers, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. The broader economic implications that can stretch across industries, countries, and even generations. Let's start with something that matters to almost everyone: jobs. When tariffs are introduced, the idea is usually to protect local jobs from foreign competition. And sometimes it works. A steel plant might stay open, or a textile factory might avoid layoffs. But here's what doesn't get talked about enough: the unintended consequences. Industries that rely on imported materials, like car manufacturers, construction companies, or even small businesses, often see their input costs rise sharply. And what do they do when it becomes more expensive to do business? They cut corners. They slow down production. They lay people off. So while a handful of jobs might be saved in one sector, many more can be lost in others. In fact, some studies show that for every job protected by a tariff, several others may be at risk somewhere else in the economy. And the people losing those jobs? They're often in sectors no one's even talking about in the trade war headlines. Now let's talk about GDP, gross domestic product. GDP is a measure of a country's total economic output, the value of everything it produces in a year. And GDP tends to slow down when trade wars drag on. Why? Because tariffs don't just affect the prices of products, they also reduce demand, slow investment, and disrupt trade flows. If companies are selling fewer goods abroad because other countries have retaliated with tariffs of their own, that's a direct hit to national output. If imports become more expensive and consumers start spending less, that slows the economy too. Over time, this creates a chilling effect, a kind of economic slowdown that's not dramatic but persistent. And remember, this isn't happening in a vacuum. Trade wars between major economies like the US and China send shockwaves throughout the entire global system. Countries that rely heavily on exports, like Germany, South Korea, or many developing nations, can see a sudden drop in demand. These ripple effects don't just stay within borders. Global supply chains are now so interconnected that a disruption in one region can affect factories, workers, and prices all around the world. So what starts as a political dispute between two governments can become an international slowdown, touching sectors far removed from the original conflict. Another serious consequence? Business confidence. And confidence isn't something you can measure easily. But it's one of the most important factors in economic growth. When businesses are uncertain about what the next quarter might bring, whether new tariffs will be announced or whether a key market will become inaccessible, they pull back. They delay hiring. They cancel expansion plans. They sit on cash instead of investing. And all of that hesitation adds up. And once those relationships are broken, they're often very hard to rebuild. It's like any relationship. Damage builds slowly, but repair takes time. Sometimes it never happens at all. But believe it or not, it's not all doom and gloom. Trade wars can actually open up new doors. When global supply chains get shaken up, businesses start looking for fresh solutions, local suppliers, new partners, and untapped markets. That shift can lead to innovation, job creation, and smarter, more resilient systems. And if you're thinking about your money, here's the quick advice. Diversify your investments. Focus on essentials like food and healthcare, and don't panic over the headlines. Economic shakeups might feel scary, but they also create room for growth. Sometimes progress shows up disguised as disruption. And that's a wrap on trades and tariffs. Thanks for tuning in and untangling the global goods game with me. If this video made tariffs a little less terrifying, go ahead and smash that like button, share it with your curious crew, and subscribe so you don't miss the next stick figure breakdown. Got questions swirling around global trade or ideas for what we should cover next? Drop them in the comments. I'm all ears. Until next time, keep your mind open and your trade balanced.